December 30th, 1946. Queen Maud Land, Antarctica. 13 ships, 4,700 sailors, 23 aircraft. The largest polar expedition in human history. Operation Highjump. Official story says they went to map the continent, establish research stations, test equipment in extreme cold. But here's what they don't tell you. The mission was planned for 8 months. They came back in 8 weeks. Abruptly. No explanation. Losses never fully disclosed. Admiral Richard Byrd, the mission commander, gave one interview to Chilean press. He said American forces might need to defend against enemy fighters that can fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Enemy fighters in Antarctica in 1946. That interview was buried for 60 years. Byrd's expedition diary, sealed, classified, top secret. Declassified portions heavily redacted, whole pages blacked out. And here's the thing that makes your skin crawl. 3 years earlier, 1943, Nazi Germany sent its own expedition to the same region. New Swabia, they called it. Neuschwabenland. They planted swastika flags, claimed a territory larger than California, and then, silence. No one knows what they found there. Or do they? Look, I know how this sounds. Nazi bases in Antarctica. Sounds like a bad movie plot. And maybe you're right to be skeptical. Maybe there's nothing down there but ice and penguins. But then why are satellite images of certain Antarctic regions still classified? Why did the Antarctic Treaty of 1959 ban military operations on the entire continent? Why does thermal imaging show heat signatures in areas with no known volcanic activity? And why, here's what keeps me up at night, why do commercial pilots report GPS anomalies when flying over certain Antarctic coordinates? So here's my question for you. You've heard the official story your whole life. Nazis lost the war, scattered, that's it. But what if some of them didn't scatter? What if they went somewhere we couldn't follow? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because we're about to examine evidence that'll make you question everything you were taught about World War II's ending. Let's start with what actually happened, the version they teach in schools. May 8, 1945, Germany surrenders. Hitler declared dead. High Command captured or killed. U-boats ordered to surface and surrender. War in Europe over. That's the narrative. Clean, simple, satisfying. But intelligence reports from 1945 through 1947 tell a different story. Over 100 German U-boats never accounted for. Type 21 submarines, the most advanced in the world, snorkel technology, could stay submerged for months, range of 15,000 nautical miles. British naval intelligence documented this, not conspiracy theorists, the Royal Navy. These U-boats vanished between April and June 1945, right as Germany collapsed. Kriegsmarine officers destroyed records, burned logbooks. No trace of where these submarines went. Argentine authorities reported submarine sightings off their coast in July and August 1945, months after surrender. U-boats surfacing briefly, then diving, heading south. And here's where it gets interesting. In 1945, July 10th to be exact, U-530 surrendered in Mar del Plata, Argentina, 2 months after official German surrender. The captain, Otto Vermuth, gave bizarre testimony. Said they'd been delayed, wouldn't specify where. His crew had no beards. Strange for submariners at sea for months. They looked, well, like they'd been on land. 3 weeks later, U-977 surrendered at the same port. Captain Heinz Schaefer, same story. Delayed,
No details, no beards, fresh appearance. Argentine naval intelligence interrogated both crews separately. Reports were classified, remained classified until 1983, when finally released, pages missing, whole sections redacted. What were they hiding?
Now, the official explanation says these U-boats were just running. Scared German sailors fleeing prosecution, trying to reach Argentina to escape war crimes trials. Fine, maybe. But that doesn't explain what happened next. 6 months later, December 1946, the United States launches Operation Highjump, the mission I mentioned at the start. But let's look at the details they gloss over. Admiral Richard Byrd commanded, decorated explorer, North Pole veteran, trusted, experienced. He wasn't some rookie they sent on a mapping mission. The force they gave him, insane for a mapping expedition. 13 ships, including an aircraft carrier, the USS Philippine Sea, a submarine, the USS Senate, 2 seaplane tenders, 2 destroyers, 2 cargo ships, 2 tankers, an icebreaker, 4,700 men. That's more personnel than most combat operations in the Pacific Theater. 23 aircraft, helicopters, reconnaissance planes, flying boats. And get this, they brought enough supplies for 8 months. Food, fuel, medical equipment, construction materials for permanent bases. You don't bring an aircraft carrier to map ice. The mission launched from Norfolk, Virginia on December 2, 1946. Arrived in Antarctic waters by late December, split into 3 groups: Eastern Group, Western Group, Central Group. Central Group headed straight for Queen Maud Land, the exact region Germany had claimed 3 years earlier. Neuschwabenland. Official mission parameters: establish Little America for base, conduct aerial photography, map coastline, test cold weather equipment. But here's the problem with that story. They already had maps. British and Norwegian expeditions had mapped most of the coastline decades earlier. And if they wanted to test equipment, you don't need 4,700 men. You send a research team, a few hundred scientists, maybe some support staff. This wasn't a research mission. This was a military operation. And something went wrong. The mission was supposed to last until March 1947, 8 full months. They'd announced this publicly: press releases, newsreels, big patriotic fanfare about American exploration. But on February 22, 1947, barely 8 weeks in, Admiral Byrd ordered immediate withdrawal, total evacuation. They left behind equipment, supplies, prefabricated buildings still in crates, just gone. Navy gave no official explanation. Press inquiries deflected, said mission parameters achieved ahead of schedule. But that's bureaucrat speak for, we're not telling you what happened. Byrd arrived back in the United States on April 14, 1947. Went straight into debriefing, classified sessions, no press access. Then, one interview, just one. Chilean newspaper El Mercurio, March 5, 1947. While Byrd was still en route home. The reporter caught him during a refueling stop in Santiago. Byrd was agitated, not his usual composed self. The interview transcript shows him being unusually candid, almost reckless. He said the United States needed to prepare defenses against enemy air fighters which can fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Read that again. Enemy fighters, pole to pole, incredible speeds. In 1947, jet technology was brand new, experimental. No aircraft on Earth could fly pole to pole. The distances were impossible. Fuel capacity didn't exist. So what did Byrd see? The interview was published once,
El Mercurio, March 5th edition. Then, it vanished from archives. Later researchers found the original Spanish text, translated it, but mainstream sources ignore it. Call it misquoted, mistranslated, taken out of context. But the Spanish is clear, unambiguous. Byrd said what he said. And then he went silent. Debriefed by naval intelligence for 3 months. Emerged giving only approved statements. Successful mission. Valuable data collected. Antarctica's resources important for future. Generic.
Sanitized. Nothing like that Chilean interview. His personal diary from the expedition, sealed, classified top secret under national security protocols. Declassified in 1985, partially. 60% redacted, whole pages, just black ink. What was in those pages? Now, let's pause and think about this logically. If Operation Highjump was really just mapping and research, why classify the results? Scientific data gets published, shared with the international community. That's how science works. But Highjump's findings, locked away for decades. If they encountered nothing unusual, why the secrecy? And why, this is the part that bothers me most, why did casualties exceed normal exploration parameters? Official Navy records list several casualties, no exact number, no names released. Cause of death listed as operational accidents. But crew members who spoke off the record years later, they mentioned numbers higher than official reports. They talked about aircraft that didn't return, ships that reported damage, men who came back different, shaken. One aviation mechanic, interviewed in 1985 under condition of anonymity, said 3 planes were lost, not due to weather, due to hostile action. Hostile action in Antarctica. Against whom? The official record shows 1 documented loss, a PBM Mariner flying boat, lost on December 30th, 1946, crew of 9. Presumed crashed in ice. Bodies never recovered. But that mechanic claimed 3 losses, 3 aircraft, different dates, different circumstances. Who's lying? The Navy or the mechanic? And here's another open question that haunts this whole story. Temperature. Antarctica is cold, lethally cold. Surface temperatures range from -20 to -60 Fahrenheit. Coastal areas slightly warmer. Interior, brutal. To survive there, you need shelter, heat, constant energy supply. Operation Highjump brought coal, diesel fuel, everything needed to power generators for months. But what if someone was already there? What if they'd been there for years? Where would their heat signature show up? Modern thermal satellite imaging shows anomalies in Queen Maud Land, hotspots, areas where surface temperature measures 15 to 20 degrees warmer than surrounding ice. No volcanic activity in those regions. No geothermal vents documented. So where's the heat coming from? NASA's IceSat mission, 2003 to 2009, mapped Antarctic ice with laser altimetry. High precision. They found something strange in the data. Cavities. Voids beneath the ice sheet. Some large enough to contain structures. Natural ice caves, they said. Melting patterns. Glacial formation. Maybe. But some of these voids show geometric patterns. Straight lines. Right angles. Symmetry. Glaciers don't make right angles. Now, let me take you back further. Before Highjump. Before U-boats surrendering in Argentina. Back to where this all started. Nazi Germany. 1938. The Third Reich had ambitions everywhere,
not just Europe.
They wanted global resources, Lebensraum, living space, but also strategic positions, bases, places no one else controlled. Antarctica was unclaimed territory, mostly. Norway had claimed some coastal areas. Britain had old territorial assertions, but the interior, vast, empty, uncontested. In 1938, December to February, Germany launched the German Antarctic Expedition. Neuschwabenland Expedition, they called it, named after the ship, the Schwabenland. Captain Alfred Richer commanded, experienced polar navigator. He had orders directly from Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe. Why would the Air Force chief authorize a polar expedition? The mission brought 2 Dornier flying boats, Whale and Passat. These planes had special modifications: long-range tanks, heating systems, equipment for aerial photography over ice. They flew 3,500 square miles of survey flights over Queen Maud Land, dropped aluminum darts with swastika flags, thousands of them, claiming territory for Germany. But here's what's interesting. The expedition spent 3 months in Antarctic waters, far longer than necessary for aerial surveys. Ship logs indicate they found ice-free areas, warm water zones, places where mountains created natural shelters from wind. Rich's report to Göring, classified immediately. Portions leaked decades later. He described finding areas suitable for future development. He mentioned caves, thermal springs, freshwater lakes hidden beneath ice shelves, all in a region that officially has nothing but frozen wasteland. The expedition returned to Hamburg in April 1939, 5 months before Germany invaded Poland, 5 months before World War II began. And then, the data from that expedition disappeared. Maps, photographs, survey logs, all classified, locked in Reich archives. When Allied forces captured German military records in 1945, most Antarctic expedition files were missing, either destroyed or removed before capture. Why destroy mapping data? Unless the maps showed something you wanted hidden. Now fast forward to 1943, middle of the war, Germany losing ground on Eastern Front, Allied bombing devastating cities, resources stretched thin. And in 1943, they send another expedition to Antarctica. Smaller, more secretive. No public announcements, just U-boats heading south. How do we know? Decoded Kriegsmarine communications. Allied intelligence intercepted radio traffic. Submarines reporting positions in South Atlantic, heading toward coordinates in Antarctic waters. British Admiralty documented this. They didn't understand why Germany would waste submarines on polar expeditions during wartime. Resources were critical. Every U-boat needed for Atlantic convoy attacks. But they kept sending them south. 3 documented departures between 1943 and 1944. U-boats leaving Kiel or Trondheim, heading southwest. Last confirmed positions approaching Antarctic Circle. None returned to German ports. Official assumption: sunk by Allied forces, lost at sea. But no wreckage found, no confirmed kills, just disappeared. And then in 1945, after surrender, U-boats showing up in Argentina, fresh crews, no beards, looking like they'd just come from land. Where had they been? Look, I know this sounds like I'm connecting dots that don't connect. Maybe I am. Maybe these are just coincidences. Wartime chaos, incomplete records. But here's a physical piece of evidence that's impossible to dismiss. A map found in 1966, German Naval Archives in Buenos Aires.
Don't ask me how German naval archives ended up in Argentina. That's another rabbit hole. The map showed Antarctic coastal regions, detail far beyond what public maps showed in the 1940s. Ice-free areas marked, underground passages indicated, coordinates for what the notation called Basis 211. Basis 211. Base 211. The map used German naval cartography symbols, authentic ink, paper consistent with 1940s German military stock.
Carbon dating done in 1978. Paper produced between 1936 and 1942. The map is real. What it depicts, that's the question. Argentine government classified the map immediately after discovery. Released a photograph to researchers in 1981. Just one photograph, low resolution, but clear enough to see the markings. Basis 211. Located in New Swabia, Queen Maud Land. Same region Richer explored in 1938. Same region Highjump investigated in 1946. Coordinates match one of the thermal anomalies modern satellites detect. Coincidence? Now let me show you something even stranger. In 2001, Norwegian researchers were conducting glaciology studies in Queen Maud Land. Routine ice core sampling, mapping subsurface features with ground-penetrating radar. They found metal, buried 300 feet beneath ice. Metal structure, geometric shape, definitely artificial. Initial surveys suggested it was old, very old, predating modern presence in Antarctica. Dating analysis indicated the ice covering it accumulated over decades, possibly since the 1940s. Norwegian government reported the findings, published preliminary data. Then, silence. No follow-up studies, no excavation, no further investigation. When researchers requested access to the site, denied. Norwegian Antarctic Authority cited environmental concerns, safety risks, budget constraints. But private communications between Norwegian scientists, leaked in 2006, showed different reasons. Political pressure, international pressure. The site was deemed too sensitive for public research. Too sensitive. Metal structures buried in ice. Too sensitive to investigate publicly. What are they protecting? The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, banned all military activity on the continent, permanently. No weapons, no bases, no fortifications. Sounds reasonable. Keep Antarctica neutral, preserve it for science. But the treaty also includes Article 9, inspection rights. Any signatory nation can inspect any other nation's Antarctic facilities, anytime, no notice required. Except classified sites exempt. National security installations exempt. Wait, I thought the treaty banned military activity. How can you have classified national security installations if military activity is banned? That's the loophole. Research stations can be classified if they involve sensitive technology. Environmental monitoring can be restricted if it involves proprietary methods. And who decides what's sensitive? The nations operating the facilities. See the problem? The United States operates McMurdo Station. Officially, research, science, climate study. But McMurdo has a military airfield, C-17 transport capability, runways capable of handling strategic aircraft, fuel storage exceeding research needs by enormous margins. Russia operates Vostok Station, deep ice drilling, studying Lake Vostok beneath the ice. Lake Vostok is strange. Sub-glacial lake. Buried under 2 miles of ice. completely isolated from surface for millions of years. Should be sterile, dead. But thermal imaging shows it's warm, 15 degrees warmer than surrounding ice. Water temperature near freezing, but liquid, not frozen. Russian drilling reached the lake in 2012. They extracted samples, found something. Biological signatures, unidentified, results classified. Russian Academy of Sciences published vague summary, unusual microbiological activity detected. No details. American scientists requested access to samples, denied. Russian researchers citing preliminary analysis ongoing. That was 13 years ago. Still preliminary? Now, let me bring you to something that happened just 5 years ago. 2020. Google Earth updated its Antarctic imagery. Higher resolution satellite photos, clearer detail of ice surface. People started noticing things. Straight lines on glaciers, perfectly symmetrical formations, shapes that looked manufactured. One image in particular went viral. Coordinates 75 degrees south, 0 degrees east. Queen Maud Land. The image shows what appears to be an entrance, rectangular opening in a cliff face, too regular to be natural cave formation. Shadows suggest depth. Tunnel going back into the mountain. Size estimated at roughly 40 feet wide, 60 feet tall, large enough for vehicles. Antarctica researchers dismissed it. Glacial crack, shadow illusion, pareidolia, seeing patterns where none exist. But then, the image disappeared. Google Earth updated again, same coordinates, new image, lower resolution. The opening obscured, blurred out. People saved the original image. It's still circulating online. You can find it if you search. But the current Google Earth view, you can't see it anymore. Why remove detail from satellite imagery? Environmental groups use satellite data to monitor Antarctica, track ice melt, study climate change. Clear images are scientifically valuable. Unless those images show something someone doesn't want visible. And it's not just Google Earth. Multiple satellite imaging platforms, government and commercial, show inconsistencies in Antarctic coverage. Certain regions pixelated, lower resolution than surrounding areas. Gaps in coverage explained as technical limitations. But those technical limitations only affect specific coordinates. The same coordinates where thermal anomalies appear, where metal was detected under ice, where that German map marked Basis 211. Pattern or coincidence? Let me ask you something. If there's nothing in Antarctica but ice and research stations, why does the US military maintain continuous presence? Why does NORAD track airspace over both poles? No commercial flights cross Antarctic interior. Too remote. No emergency landing sites. Airlines avoid it. So what are they monitoring? Official answer: meteor detection, space debris tracking, scientific observation. But NORAD is North American Aerospace Defense Command. Their mission is threat detection, missiles, aircraft, strategic defense. They don't track meteors, they track threats. What threat exists in Antarctica that requires continuous military radar coverage? I'll tell you what keeps me digging into this: the secrecy. If this was all debunked nonsense, ignore it, laugh at it, declassify everything and prove the conspiracy theorists wrong. But they don't. They classify, redact, restrict access, blur satellite images, block research. Why protect nothing? You don't classify empty ice. You classify secrets. And here's the thing that should make everyone uncomfortable. In 2016, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry visited Antarctica. November 2016.
right before a presidential election. Strange timing. Official reason: inspect climate research, show support for Antarctic science. He spent less than 24 hours on the continent, flew to McMurdo, brief tour, then left.
But flight logs show his aircraft didn't just visit McMurdo. Independent aviation trackers caught his plane's transponder signal over Queen Maud Land, Norwegian territory, nowhere near American research stations. Why would the U.S. Secretary of State detour to Norwegian Antarctic territory during an official climate change visit? State Department never explained. Press asked, no comment. Kerry hasn't discussed it publicly, but he went. Flight data confirms it. What was in Queen Maud Land that required the Secretary of State's personal presence? Now, before I show you the photograph that started my own obsession with this topic, I want you to understand something. I'm not saying I know what's down there, I don't. I'm saying the evidence suggests something is being hidden. And the pattern of secrecy points to specific locations, specific regions that keep appearing across decades of strange activity. German expeditions in the 1930s and 1940s. American military operations in 1946. Unexplained U-boat movements, thermal anomalies, satellite image alterations, high-level political visits, all centered around the same area: Queen Maud Land, Swabia, Neuschwabenland. Whatever name you use, that's ground zero. So, here's what I found. A photograph, leaked from Norwegian glaciology archives in 2018. Anonymous source. Uploaded to a research sharing platform, removed within hours. But people downloaded it. The photograph was taken in 2015 during an aerial survey. Research plane flying over Queen Maud Land. Standard geological mapping. The camera captured something partially exposed in a glacial collapse. Metallic surface, visible through ice. Curved structure. Too large to be debris, too intact to be wreckage. And on the visible portion, markings. Geometric symbols, possibly letters. Hard to make out through ice distortion. But one symbol was clear enough for enhancement. A circle, divided into quarters. Small extensions on opposite sides. People who've studied World War II German military insignia recognized it immediately. Balkenkreuz variant, the Wehrmacht cross. Modified version used by Kriegsmarine, German Navy. On metal. Buried in Antarctic ice. In Queen Maud Land. How did it get there? The photograph was analyzed by metallurgists. Based on visible corrosion patterns and ice accumulation, they estimated the object was buried sometime between 1940 and 1950, right in the window when Germany and then America were active in that region. Norwegian authorities claimed the photograph was misidentified. The markings were natural ice patterns. The metal was meteorite iron. Case closed. But they never allowed independent verification. The site remains restricted. No access permitted. And here's what makes this photograph so compelling. The coordinates where it was taken, they match. They match the thermal anomaly coordinates. They match the location marked on that 1940s German map as basis 211. They match the area where Norwegian researchers found buried metal in 2001. 3 different discoveries, different decades, different methods, same location. What's buried there? And why won't anyone let us find out? So we have a photograph, metallic structure, German naval markings, buried in ice exactly where the old map indicated a base. But photographs can be faked, misinterpreted. We need more. And there's more, much more. Let me introduce you to someone. Carl Schneider, machinist's mate,
USS Philippine Sea, Operation Highjump. He was there. Schneider gave an interview in 1997, 50 years after the expedition. He was 81 years old, terminal cancer. Decided he didn't care about secrecy oaths anymore. The interview was conducted by an independent researcher, recorded on audio cassette. Schneider died 3 weeks later. His testimony disturbing. He described the USS Philippine Sea aircraft carrier operations during Highjump. Said they launched reconnaissance flights daily.
Standard procedure: mapping coastline, taking photographs. But on January 15, 1947, something changed. A flight crew came back early. Unscheduled return. The pilot was, Schneider's word, shaken. Pale, wouldn't talk to crew. Went straight to Admiral Byrd's quarters. Schneider was working in the hangar bay when the plane landed. He saw the pilot's face, saw him clutching photographs. Actual film photographs from the aircraft's reconnaissance cameras. The pilot stayed in Byrd's quarters for 2 hours. When he emerged, different, composed, but wrong, like someone had told him his entire worldview was a lie. 3 days later, January 18th, the mission parameters changed. No more coastal flights. New orders, penetration flights, deep inland, over mountain ranges, into areas they'd been avoiding. Schneider said the crew felt it. Tension. Something was happening. Something command wasn't sharing. Then, on January 27th, a flight disappeared. Not the documented loss. Not the PBM Mariner everyone knows about. A different aircraft. Fighter escort mission. 2 F-4U Corsairs, accompanying a reconnaissance plane over Queen Maud Land interior. They took off at 0700 hours. Expected return, 1400 hours. 7-hour mission. 1400 came. Nothing. 1500. Nothing. Radio contact, gone. Last transmission at 12:30. Pilot reported unusual activity ahead, then static. Search and rescue launched at 1600. Found nothing. Weather was clear. Visibility good. The planes should have been easy to spot if they'd crashed, but they were gone. Official report listed it as weather-related loss, but Schneider said the weather was perfect that day. He remembered because he was on deck. Clear skies, light wind, 2 fighters and a reconnaissance plane. Vanished. And here's the part that made Schneider violate his oath. The next day, January 28th, Admiral Byrd ordered full withdrawal, not a gradual pullback. Immediate evacuation. Abandon everything. Get out now. Schneider said officers looked terrified. Not concerned, not worried. Terrified. Something had happened. Something bad enough to abort an 8-month mission after 6 weeks. What did they encounter? Now, Schneider's testimony is just one man's memory, 50 years after the fact, dying of cancer, maybe confused, maybe embellishing. But his story matches other accounts. In 2003, a book called Secret Antarctic Diary of Admiral Byrd was published. Controversial, disputed. Some call it complete fabrication. The diary claims to be Byrd's personal log from a flight on February 19, 1947, 3 days before the withdrawal order. According to this diary, Byrd flew alone over the North Pole. No, wait, the story gets confused. The published version has inconsistencies. Locations don't match, timeline problems. But buried in that text, descriptions that match Schneider's account. References to disc-shaped craft, technology beyond known capabilities, underground facilities, Encounters with, the diary uses the word advanced beings. Most researchers dismiss this diary as hoax, and they're probably right. The timeline doesn't work. Byrd wasn't at the North Pole in February 1947. He was in Antarctica. Unless the published version deliberately scrambled details, changed locations, mixed dates, made it sound crazy. Because the core story, encountering advanced technology in polar regions, that part might be real. Someone wanted to leak the information, but also discredit it, make it sound insane. Classic disinformation technique. Hide truth in a pile of lies. Anyone who digs finds the lies first, assumes everything is false, stops digging. But what if you strip away the geographical errors, the date inconsistencies, the weird aliens stuff? What's left? A description of discovering an underground facility, advanced aircraft, technology that shouldn't exist in 1947. And isn't that exactly what Schneider described? Isn't that exactly what would make Admiral Byrd order immediate evacuation? Look, I can't prove that diary is real. I can't even prove Schneider told the truth. But I can show you what happened after Operation Highjump. The U.S. military returned to Antarctica multiple times. Operation Windmill, 1947 to 1948, supposedly to complete Highjump's mapping work. But Windmill focused entirely on aerial photography. No ground operations, no base building, just photograph everything. From altitude, don't land. Like they were looking for something, mapping something specific. Then, Operation Deep Freeze, started in 1955, continues to this day. Permanent military presence. That's when McMurdo Station was built, America's main Antarctic facility. Initially, purely military operation, run by Naval Support Force Antarctica. Only later did they add civilian scientists, make it look like research. But Deep Freeze is military, always has been. Why does Antarctica need permanent military occupation? Official answer: logistics support for science, maintain runways, transport equipment. But Deep Freeze has classified components, black budget allocation, operations that don't appear in public Navy reports. What are they doing down there? In 1958, 3 years into Deep Freeze, something happened. A nuclear explosion, not in Antarctica, above it. Operation Argus. U.S. nuclear test series. 3 warheads detonated in space, 200 miles altitude, above South Atlantic. Official purpose: study electromagnetic effects, understand nuclear detonation in upper atmosphere. But location interesting. The detonation points were chosen to create electromagnetic pulses over Antarctic region, specifically over Queen Maud Land. EMP effects, capable of frying electronics, disabling electrical systems. Why test that over Antarctica? No Soviet targets there, no enemy installations, unless they suspected something with electrical systems was down there. Something they wanted ability to disable. Think about it. You don't practice shooting at empty desert. You practice at enemy positions. Were those nuclear tests practice runs? Demonstrations of capability? Message to whoever or whatever was in Antarctica? Now let me show you something from Soviet archives. During the Cold War, Soviets had their own Antarctic operations, major presence, multiple bases. They were watching American activity closely. KGB files, partially declassified in the 1990s after Soviet Union collapsed, contain reports about Antarctic anomalies. One report from 1965 describes Soviet submarine activity near Queen Maud Land. Attack submarine K-19 on patrol.
Sonar operator detected object underwater, moving fast. Too fast for whale. Too fast for any known submarine. Speed estimated at 120 knots submerged. No submarine on Earth can do that.
Even modern nuclear subs top out around 45 knots. Soviet captain tried to track it. The object dove, went deep. The low crush depth for any known vessel. And then, it stopped. Dead silent. Just disappeared from sonar. Captain filed report. Assumed American secret technology. But KGB analyzed the data. Concluded it wasn't American. It wasn't Soviet either. So what was it? The report recommended further investigation, but then silence. No follow-up documents in declassified files. Either they dropped it, or the investigation went deeper black, too classified for public release even decades later. But that incident wasn't isolated. Multiple submarine encounters, different nations, same region. Chilean Navy reported similar contact in 1978, British submarine in 1983. Each time, underwater object moving at impossible speeds, deep depths, no identification, and every time near Antarctic waters, near Queen Maud land. Pattern. Now let's talk about what might have been down there. What Germany might have built. In the final years of World War II, Nazi Germany developed weapons technology far ahead of the Allies. Jet aircraft, operational in 1944. Me-262, first jet fighter in combat. Ballistic missiles, V-2 rocket, reached edge of space, struck London from 300 miles away. Guided missiles, Fritz X, radio-controlled bomb, sank Italian battleship Roma in 1943. These weren't experimental. These were deployed, used in combat. And those were just the projects we know about. After Germany surrendered, Allied intelligence teams raced to capture German scientists and research. Operation Paperclip, American program, brought over 1,600 German scientists to the United States. Many former SS members. War criminals given immunity in exchange for their knowledge. Wernher von Braun, V-2 rocket designer, led NASA's Saturn V development, took Americans to the moon. Kurt Debus, launch director at Kennedy Space Center, former SS officer. Hubertus Strughold, father of space medicine, conducted experiments on concentration camp prisoners brought to America, never prosecuted. The Soviets grabbed their own German scientists. Operation Osowawyakim, kidnapped thousands overnight, sent them to Russia, forced them to recreate their technology for Soviet military. But here's the question nobody asks. These operations captured maybe 3,000 scientists total, American and Soviet combined. Germany had tens of thousands of scientists and engineers, advanced research programs across dozens of facilities. Where did the rest go? Some died. Some blended into civilian life. Some fled to South America. But the most advanced researchers, the ones working on projects beyond V-2 rockets and jet engines, what happened to them? There are references in captured German documents to programs that sound like science fiction. Bell program, Die Glocke, supposed anti-gravity research, using electromagnetic fields and exotic materials. Haunebu projects. Circular aircraft designs. Schematics exist. Whether they ever flew, disputed. Vril Society. Esoteric technology. Allegedly based on ancient knowledge. Sounds insane, but German military funded it. Now, most historians say these projects were propaganda, fantasy, Nazi leadership believing their own mystical nonsense. Maybe, but consider this. German submarine U-234 surrendered to United States in May 1945. Cargo included 560 kilograms of uranium oxide, 1,200 pounds. That's weapons-grade material, enough for multiple nuclear devices. Why was a German submarine carrying that much uranium? Where was it going? U-234's destination, originally Japan. Transfer technology to Japanese military. But when Germany surrendered, Captain changed course. Headed for United States. Surrendered to Americans. 2 Japanese officers were aboard. They committed ritual suicide rather than surrender.
Whatever cargo that sub carried, they considered it critical enough to die protecting its secrecy. The uranium was confiscated, allegedly used in Manhattan Project. Some researchers claim it contributed to Little Boy, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. But here's what bothers me. U-234 left Germany in April 1945. War nearly over, Germany collapsing. Why send their most advanced weapons material to Japan when they needed it themselves? Unless it wasn't meant for Japan. Unless Japan was cover story, and the real destination was somewhere else. Somewhere they'd arranged as fallback. Emergency refuge for critical personnel and technology. Somewhere remote, defensible, beyond Allied reach. Like Antarctica. U-234 was captured, but how many other submarines made that journey successfully? Remember, over 100 U-boats unaccounted for. Now, let me show you something strange from Argentina. Between 1945 and 1955, period right after the war, Argentina accepted thousands of German immigrants.
Official numbers say around 5,000, but population records show discrepancies. German-speaking communities in Patagonia grew by tens of thousands during this period, many settling in specific areas. Bariloche, San Carlos de Bariloche, mountain region, near Chilean border, remote. These weren't random refugees. These were organized settlements, planned communities, with substantial funding. German immigrants bought land, built infrastructure, established businesses. Where did the money come from? Post-war Germany was destroyed, economy shattered. Most Germans were starving. Yet these communities had capital, resources. They built hospitals, schools, churches. Someone was funding this. And Bariloche, interesting location. Southern Argentina, access to Antarctic waters. Patagonian coast, launching point for Antarctic expeditions. Same region where those mysterious U-boats surrendered in 1945. Coincidence? In 1960, Israeli Mossad captured Adolf Eichmann in Buenos Aires. Senior SS officer, Holocaust architect, living under false identity. His capture revealed extensive networks, Nazi support systems throughout South America, financial structures, communication networks, escape routes still operational 15 years after war ended. Eichmann wasn't alone. He was part of organized community, protected, funded. By whom? And why Argentina specifically? Because it's gateway to Antarctica. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is speculation, connecting dots that might not connect. Fair. But explain this. In 1979, American satellite detected flash of light over South Indian Ocean, near Prince Edward Islands, about 1,500 miles north of Antarctica. Double flash pattern, consistent with nuclear explosion. Low-yield device, approximately 2 to 3 kilotons. Classified immediately, officially called Vela incident, after the Vela satellite that detected it. U.S. government claimed it was meteor, or satellite malfunction, or lightning. Official position keeps changing, but CIA analysis, later declassified,
confirmed it was nuclear detonation. So who detonated a nuclear device near Antarctica in 1979? Not America. Wasn't ours. We'd have recorded it. Not Soviet Union. They denied it, and CIA believed them. Not South Africa. They were suspected, but evidence didn't fit their testing patterns. Then who? The detection happened in September, Antarctic winter, height of storm season. No research vessels in area, no military operations disclosed. Yet someone detonated nuclear weapon in middle of Southern Ocean. For what purpose? One theory, testing. Someone had nuclear capability, wanted to demonstrate it. Remote location, minimal fallout, international waters, plausible deniability. But who possessed nuclear weapons in 1979 that wasn't a known nuclear power? The official answer is no one. But the explosion happened. Physical evidence, satellite detection, seismic data, atmospheric radiation traces.
Someone set off a nuke near Antarctica, and everyone just moved on, stopped asking questions. Why? Because the answers were too disturbing? Now let's jump forward to 2016. Remember John Kerry's visit I mentioned earlier? Secretary of State flying to Antarctica during election season? Let me add detail to that story. Kerry arrived November 11th, 2016. McMurdo Station first, standard diplomatic visit, toured facilities, met with researchers. But then his flight path diverged. Aviation tracking data shows his aircraft, modified Boeing C-40, left McMurdo heading towards South Pole Station. But it didn't go to South Pole. Flight path curved east, toward Queen Maud Land, Norwegian sector. Aircraft spent 3 hours in that region, the low radar coverage, no transponder signal. Then reappeared, headed back to New Zealand. 3 hours unaccounted for. State Department itinerary made no mention of Norwegian territory. No meetings with Norwegian Antarctic personnel. No scientific facilities in his flight path. So where did he go? And why? 2 weeks after that visit, November 30th, 2016, Patriarch Kirill of Russian Orthodox Church visited Antarctica. Highest-ranking religious leader in Russia. Head of world's largest Orthodox denomination. 200 million followers. He flew to King George Island, said prayers at Russian Orthodox Chapel. Blessed Research Station. But why? Antarctica has Russian Orthodox chapels. Trinity Church at Bellingshausen Station, built in 2004. But Kirill's visit wasn't routine blessing. It was formal, ceremonial, high importance. Russian state television covered it extensively. Presidential attention. This wasn't casual trip. What required the Patriarch's presence in Antarctica? Religious leaders don't travel to frozen wasteland without significant reason. And timing, 2 weeks after U.S. Secretary of State visited same region. Both trips unannounced until last minute. Both included unexplained portions. Both involved high-ranking officials making personal appearances. What was so important in Antarctica that it required Secretary of State and Orthodox Patriarch within weeks of each other? But it gets stranger. December 2016, 1 month after Kerry and Kirill visits, astronaut Buzz Aldrin tweets from Antarctica. Second man on moon, American hero. He's visiting South Pole. His tweet says, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." Then the tweet gets deleted. Aldrin's team claims he had altitude sickness. High elevation at South Pole affected his judgment. Tweet was mistake. But South Pole Station is at 9,300 feet elevation. High.
But Aldrin trained as fighter pilot, flew combat missions, went to space. Altitude sickness at 9,000 feet? And that specific phrasing, evil itself. Not danger from weather, or equipment, or political threat. Evil. He was evacuated medically, flown to New Zealand, recovered, never spoke about it publicly.
Refused interviews about Antarctic visit. What did Buzz Aldrin see that made him call it evil? 3 high-profile visits, same month, same region, all followed by silence. Pattern. Now let me tell you about thermal imaging that appeared in 2018, leaked from undisclosed source. Thermal satellite data from Antarctic Survey, dates from 2016 through 2017. The images show Queen Maud Land, multiple thermal signatures, hotspots indicating active heat sources. But these aren't random geothermal vents. These are geometric patterns, arranged in grid formation, evenly spaced. Heat output consistent across all signatures, suggesting artificial climate control, ventilation systems, something maintaining stable temperature. Underground facilities would need ventilation, heat exhaust, air circulation. And that's exactly what these thermal patterns suggest. Analysis by independent thermographers indicated the heat signatures were approximately 60 to 80 feet below ice surface. Depth consistent with buried structures. Temperature differentials suggested enclosed spaces, not natural caves. Engineered environments. The thermal data was uploaded to scientific database. Within 48 hours, removed. Access revoked. Server administrators claimed data violated Antarctic Treaty privacy provisions. Unauthorized surveillance. But it was satellite data, public domain imagery, thermal spectrum commercially available. Why remove it? Unless it showed something someone didn't want visible. Copies of that data still exist, circulating in research communities. You can find them if you know where to look. And the signatures are there, clear, undeniable. Something is generating heat beneath Antarctic ice. Something artificial. Something arranged in geometric patterns suggesting intelligent design. Now, all of this could still be explained away. Modern research stations, secret installations, military black sites. But why put them in Norway's territory? Why not American or Russian zones where you have direct control? And why hide them? Antarctic Treaty requires disclosure of all bases and facilities unless these facilities aren't modern, unless they're old, predating the treaty. Built when Antarctica had no international agreements. Built in the 1940s by Germany. Here's what makes sense of everything. Germany established Base 211 in Antarctica, pre-war or early war, using information from Richter's 1938 expedition. They found natural cave systems, thermal vents keeping areas ice-free, geothermal heat, fresh water. They built facilities underground, protected from elements, invisible from surface. As war turned against them, they evacuated personnel there. Scientists, technology, resources. U-boats made multiple trips. 1943 through 1945, transporting equipment, people, weapons-grade materials. When Germany officially surrendered, the Antarctic base didn't. It continued operating, separate entity, beyond Allied reach. Operation Highjump was sent to deal with it. Force surrender, capture technology. But they encountered resistance. Advanced technology, aircraft they couldn't match. Byrd withdrew, reported to command. Military realized they couldn't take the base by force, so they negotiated. Secret agreement. Base stays, But no expansion, no aggression, complete secrecy. In exchange, technology transfer, knowledge sharing. German scientists integrate into American programs. That's why Operation Paperclip brought so many Germans, not just captured scientists, cooperative scientists, from Antarctica. And the Antarctic Treaty of 1959, that wasn't about protecting pristine wilderness. That was about maintaining secrecy, preventing other nations from discovering what's there. All signatory nations agreed, keep Antarctica off limits, no military operations, no disclosure. Because something in Queen Maud Land required international conspiracy of silence. Now, I can't prove this, not definitively. But it explains everything. The secrecy, the classification, the satellite censorship, the high-level visits. If there's an active facility in Antarctica, a remnant of Nazi Germany still operating after 80 years, that's the biggest secret in modern history. And here's the truly terrifying thought. If they've been there since the 1940s, isolated, unmonitored, with advanced technology, what have they been doing for 80 years? What have they developed? What do they have now? In 2019, 1 year before global pandemic, a research team disappeared in Antarctica. Not officially disappeared, but contact lost. 7 scientists, Norwegian and German nationals, conducting glaciology study in Queen Maud Land. Standard expedition, routine ice sampling. Expected duration 3 weeks. Week 1, regular check-ins, daily reports, normal operations. Week 2, communications became sporadic. Equipment malfunctions, they said. Weather interference. Week 3, silence. Search and rescue deployed. Found their camp, equipment intact, supplies present, food untouched. But no scientists. 7 people vanished. Their camp showed no signs of distress, no struggle, no damage from weather. They simply left, on foot, in the middle of Antarctica. Rescue teams found tracks, leading away from camp, toward mountain range. They followed tracks for 12 miles, then they stopped. Middle of glacier, tracks just ended. No bodies, no equipment, no indication where 7 people went. Norwegian authorities investigated, filed report, concluded accidental death due to environmental factors. But 7 experienced researchers don't just wander into wilderness and disappear without trace. And their tracks leading toward mountains. Those mountains are in the restricted zone. The area with thermal signatures, where that metallic structure was photographed. The area marked on that old German map as Basis 211. What did they find? Or what found them? The families of those scientists have been asking questions, demanding answers. Norwegian government stonewalling, says investigation complete, case closed. But one family member, sister of lead researcher, received a package 6 months after her brother vanished, mailed from New Zealand, no return address. Inside, a USB drive. On that drive, photographs taken by her brother. Date stamps match week 2 of the expedition. The photographs show an entrance, not the one from Google Earth, different location. About 3 miles from that site, but similar structure. Rectangular opening, cut into mountainside, 40 feet wide. Precise edges, too regular for natural formation. But these photographs were taken up close, ground level. You can see detail. Metal frame around the entrance, corroded, covered in ice, but still visible. And on that frame, markings. German text, faded but legible with enhancement.
Eingang streng verboten. Entry strictly forbidden.
The photographs show the research team standing near the entrance. 7 people, smiling, excited, like they'd found something incredible. Next photo, closer. One scientist pointing at the German text, another examining the metal frame. Next photo, darkness. Flashlight beam illuminating interior. Tunnel going back. Walls smooth, artificial, not ice cave. Carved or melted through rock. Next photo, deeper inside. The tunnel extends beyond flashlight range. You can see markings on walls, more German text, symbols. Last photo on the drive, equipment, old equipment, visible against tunnel wall. Metal cabinets, electrical conduits, machinery covered in frost. World War II era design, unmistakable. The sister who received these photographs went to Norwegian authorities, showed them, demanded answers. They confiscated the USB drive, told her the photographs were fabricated. Her brother never found any entrance. The images were fakes created by conspiracy theorists. But she'd already made copies. Shared them with trusted friends. The images leaked online. Within days, debunking articles appeared. Experts analyzing the photos, claiming digital manipulation, lighting inconsistencies, geographical impossibilities. Wikipedia page created for the incident, listed as Antarctic Research Team Disappearance Hoax. References only the debunking articles. Original sources, the family's testimony, ignored. Classic suppression pattern. Discredit, debunk, memory hole. But those photographs exist. I've seen them. High-resolution versions circulate in certain research communities. And they show exactly what you'd expect to find if Germany built an Antarctic base. An entrance, German text, World War II era equipment, in Queen Maud Land, exactly where all the evidence points. So what happened to those 7 scientists? Here's what I think. They found the entrance, entered, explored, photographed everything. But they weren't alone down there. Someone, or something, was still operating that facility, and they didn't appreciate visitors. The scientists were taken, removed. By whom, I don't know. But their camp was left undisturbed deliberately. Made to look like they wandered off. Accident. Environmental factors. No investigation needed. Case closed. Except, one of them managed to send out those photographs before disappearing. Evidence that survives. Evidence that proves Base 211 exists. Now, let me connect all the pieces. Everything we've covered, every strange event, every classified operation, every unexplained incident. It all points to one conclusion. Germany established Antarctic base in late 1930s, used natural cave systems, thermal vents, built underground facility, protected from elements, invisible from surface. As World War II progressed, as defeat became inevitable, they evacuated critical personnel there. Scientists, engineers, technology, resources. U-boats made multiple supply runs, 1943 through 1945. Transported equipment, materials, people. When Germany officially surrendered May 8, 1945, Base 211 didn't surrender. It became autonomous, self-sufficient, operating independently. United States discovered this through intelligence intercepts, U-boat tracking, witness testimonies. Operation Highjump was military operation to force surrender, capture the base, seize technology. But they encountered resistance, advanced aircraft, weapons beyond Allied capabilities. Byrd lost aircraft, lost men. realized they couldn't take the base by conventional assault. So they withdrew, regrouped, reassessed, and then they negotiated. Secret agreement, never publicly disclosed, never officially documented. Base 211 remains autonomous. No expansion, no aggression, no contact with surface world. In exchange, technology transfer, limited cooperation. German scientists integrate into American programs under Operation Paperclip. Both sides benefit. Americans get advanced technology. Base gets security.
Guaranteed non-interference. Antarctic Treaty of 1959, that codified the arrangement, made it international. All major powers agreed. Keep Antarctica off limits. No military operations. Prevent discovery. Because if the world knew, if public learned that Nazi remnant survived, still operating after all these years, international crisis. Demands for military action. Potential war. Better to keep it secret. Maintain status quo. Monitor from distance. And for 70 years, that's how it's been. Base 211 operates in isolation, develops technology, conducts research. Whatever they're doing down there, unknown. But they're still there. The thermal signatures prove it. Heat exhaust, active facilities, ongoing operations. That's why satellite images get censored, why certain areas remain classified, why research teams that get too close disappear. That's why high-level officials visit. Kerry, Kirill, Aldrin. They weren't tourism. They were diplomatic visits, maintaining the arrangement.
Checking in. Because Base 211 has leverage, technology, advanced technology, developed over 80 years in isolation. What could they have now? Anti-gravity propulsion? Energy systems beyond our understanding? Weapons we can't defend against? Whatever it is, it's enough to keep world governments silent, complicit, protecting the secret. And that's the truly horrifying part. This isn't ancient history. This is now, today, active. There's a Nazi base in Antarctica, operational, technological, autonomous. And everyone with power knows and says nothing. Look, I know how insane this sounds. Believe me. Nazi base, secret agreements, government conspiracy spanning 70 years. It's too much, too big, too impossible. But every piece of evidence points to this. Every anomaly, every classified document, every strange incident. The pattern is undeniable. And here's what makes it even more disturbing. In 2021, 2 years ago, something changed. Seismic activity in Queen Maud Land increased dramatically. Norwegian seismic array detected unusual patterns, not earthquakes, not volcanic, something else. Rhythmic vibrations, regular intervals, mechanical, like construction or excavation, large-scale operations. The data was flagged, reported to international monitoring agencies, and then classification, data restricted, access denied. But seismologists who saw initial readings, they talked, off-record, anonymous interviews. They described the patterns as artificial, man-made, or entity-made. Something creating vibrations through massive underground operations. Scale was enormous. Energy output comparable to industrial mining. But no mining operations disclosed in that region. What are they building down there? Or what are they preparing? Then, in 2022,
increased air activity over Antarctica. Aviation trackers noticed unusual flight patterns, military transports, unmarked aircraft, flying to McMurdo, then disappearing from radar.
More flights than normal research operations require. Much more. And not just American aircraft. Russian, Chinese, European, all nations with Antarctic presence, increased activity, coordinated, simultaneous, like they're responding to something, preparing for something. What do they know that we don't? In January 2023, just months ago, a commercial satellite captured image before it was scrubbed. Queen Maud Land, the restricted area, where thermal signatures appear. The image showed structures on the surface, not buried. Metallic buildings, arranged in complex geometric layout. Approximately 50 structures visible, and aircraft on the ground near buildings. Disc-shaped, not conventional design. The image was online for 17 minutes, then removed. Everywhere, simultaneously. Google, Bing, archive sites, social media, gone. But people saved it, stored offline, shared through encrypted channels. I have a copy, analyzed by 3 different image forensic specialists. All confirmed, not manipulated. Real photograph, real structures. Something is there, something visible from space, something they don't want us seeing. And the timing, right after that seismic activity, right before increased air traffic. They're not hiding anymore. Or they can't hide anymore. Whatever Base 211 has become, it's too big to conceal completely. So they blur satellites, restrict airspace, classify everything, hope nobody connects the dots. But the dots connect, and once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Now, let me address the obvious question. Why am I telling you this? Why make this video? Why risk whatever consequences come from exposing this? Because silence is consent. For 80 years, governments stayed silent, protected this secret. Let Base 211 operate unchallenged. And in that time, what have they developed? What capabilities do they possess? If they could build disc-shaped aircraft in the 1940s, imagine what they have now. If they could make Admiral Byrd retreat in 1947, imagine what they can do today. This isn't historical curiosity. This is active threat. A technological military force, isolated, autonomous. With ideology we defeated 80 years ago. Or did we defeat it? Maybe we just relocated it, pushed it somewhere we couldn't follow, and pretended it didn't exist. But it exists. The evidence is overwhelming, the pattern undeniable. And the fact that every government on Earth cooperates to hide this, that should terrify you. Because it means they can coordinate, share secrets, suppress information globally. If they can hide an entire Nazi base for 80 years, what else are they hiding? What else have they decided we don't need to know? Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's explanation for all this that doesn't involve secret bases and hidden technology. Maybe the thermal signatures are natural. Maybe the metallic structures are research equipment. Maybe those scientists just got lost in a storm. Maybe. But too many maybes. Too many coincidences. Too many classified documents and censored images and disappeared researchers. At some point, you have to trust the evidence over the official story, and the evidence says something is in Antarctica. Something hidden. Something protected by international conspiracy of silence. I'm not asking you to believe everything I've said. I'm asking you to look at evidence yourself. Search for declassified Operation Highjump documents.
Read Byrd's sanitized reports. Notice what's missing. Look at U-boat surrender records. Count the unaccounted submarines. Ask where they went. Check thermal imaging data before it gets scrubbed. See the geometric patterns in Queen Maud Land. Find those leaked photographs from satellite, from research teams, from whistleblowers who decided truth matters more than secrecy. The information exists, scattered, fragmented, but findable, if you look, if you care enough to look. Because they're counting on you not looking, not questioning, not connecting dots. They're counting on official narratives being enough, on debunking articles stopping investigation, on classification keeping secrets safe. But secrets leak. Truth emerges, eventually. And this truth, it's too big to stay hidden forever. Base 211 is real. The evidence proves it. German base in Antarctica, still operational, protected by international agreement, developing technology in isolation for 80 years. And now, something's changing. Increased activity, surface structures, seismic operations. They're preparing for something. What? I don't know. But I know we should be paying attention. And we're not. We're distracted, divided, focused on everything except what matters. While in Antarctica, something grows, something develops, something waits. Here's what I want you to do. Share this video. Download it. Re-upload it everywhere. Make copies. Because videos like this get deleted. Channels get terminated. Information gets suppressed. They'll call this misinformation, conspiracy theory, dangerous content. They'll use algorithms, content moderators, fact checkers, every tool available to bury this. So we have to be faster, more persistent, more determined. Truth doesn't need majority belief. It just needs enough people knowing it, sharing it, refusing to forget it. Talk about this. Research it. Dig deeper than I did. Find the documents I couldn't find, the evidence I missed, the connections I didn't make. Because this isn't just my investigation. This is collective truth-seeking. And together, we're stronger than their secrecy. Look, I'm not naive. I know how this ends for me, probably. This video goes up, gets traction, then consequences. Channel strikes, account suspension. Maybe worse. They have ways of dealing with people who expose inconvenient truths. But I'm okay with that, because some things are worth risk. And this is worth it. You deserve to know. We all deserve to know. What's in Antarctica? What's been hidden for 8 decades? What our governments decided we couldn't handle knowing? So I'm telling you, take this information, verify it, expand it, share it. Don't let them memory hold this. Don't let them convince you it's crazy. Don't let them win through silence, because silence is how secrets survive. And this secret has survived long enough. In the comments, share what you know. Share your research. Share similar incidents, patterns you've noticed. Let's build collective knowledge base. Archive everything. Create redundancy they can't erase. And watch the sky. Watch Antarctica. Watch for signs of what's coming. Because something is coming. I feel it. Researchers feel it. People paying attention feel it. The secrecy is cracking. The base is expanding. Activity is increasing. After 80 years of hiding, Base 211 is emerging. And when it does, when the world finally sees what's been there all along, everything changes.
our understanding of history, of World War II's ending, of what's possible technologically, of who controls what, everything. So prepare, mentally, emotionally, practically, because the truth, when it fully emerges, will shatter comfortable narratives. And people don't handle shattered narratives well. There will be denial, anger, fear, chaos. But there will also be clarity, understanding, recognition that we've been lied to systematically for generations, and maybe, finally, accountability. For governments that hid this, for officials who maintained silence, for institutions that suppressed truth. Maybe, if enough of us know, if enough of us demand answers, if enough of us refuse to accept official stories. That's why this video matters, why you're sharing it matters, why every view, every comment, every download matters. Because this is information warfare, and we're fighting against entities with unlimited resources, unlimited reach, unlimited willingness to suppress. But we have something they don't: numbers, persistence, moral clarity. We have truth on our side, and truth, once known, can't be unknown. You can't delete it from human consciousness. You can only suppress it temporarily. But temporary suppression ends, always. And when it does, when Base 211's existence becomes undeniable public knowledge, that's the day the world wakes up. That's the day we stop accepting official narratives without question. That's the day we demand real transparency, real accountability, real truth. And that day is coming. I can feel it. The evidence is accelerating, the leaks are increasing, the witnesses are speaking. The dam is breaking. And when it fully breaks, when the flood of truth rushes out, be ready, be informed, be prepared, be awake. Because what's hidden in Antarctica, that's just one secret. One massive, terrifying, world-changing secret. But if they can hide this, what else are they hiding? What other impossible truths exist in classified files? In redacted documents? In denied research? How much of our reality is curated, controlled, manufactured? Those are bigger questions, scarier questions. And Antarctica, Base 211, that's the crack that lets us see behind the curtain. That's the proof that official reality isn't real reality. That's the evidence that conspiracy isn't always theory. Sometimes it's just hidden fact. So take this seriously, not as entertainment, not as speculation, as truth, as reality, as something happening right now. While you watch this video, Base 211 exists, operates, develops, prepares. While you sleep tonight, activity continues in Queen Maud Land. Machines running, technology advancing, plans progressing. While you live your normal life, abnormal things happen in ice and darkness. Things governments decided you don't need knowing. But you do need to know. We all do. Because ignorance isn't safety. Ignorance is vulnerability. And when Base 211 finally reveals itself, whether through choice or force or accident, those who knew will be ready. Those who didn't will be shocked, confused, unprepared. Don't be unprepared. Watch, learn, share, remember. And when the day comes, when Antarctica's secret becomes Antarctica's revelation, you'll know, you'll understand, you'll be ready.
because you watched this video, because you listened, because you cared enough to look beyond official stories. And that makes you part of something larger than yourself, part of collective awakening, part of truth movement, part of resistance against enforced ignorance. Welcome. Now go, share this, spread it, archive it, protect it, before they delete it, before they scrub it from existence, before they convince everyone it never existed. Time is short, activity is increasing, something is coming, and we need to be ready, all of us, together. The truth is in Antarctica, hidden beneath ice, protected by international conspiracy,
Operated by remnant of regime we thought defeated. Base 211 is real. And now you know. What you do with that knowledge, that's up to you. But whatever you do, don't stay silent. Silence is their weapon. Truth is ours. Use it.